Special Prosecutor Dan Webb found major failure in how the Cook County State's Attorney's Office handled the Jussie Smollett case. The 60-page report released Monday cites misleading statements, quote, substantial abuses of discretion and other potential ethics concerns, though it found no evidence of criminal wrongdoing. This as Foxx's office dismissed Smollett's original case with lenient terms and no admittance of guilt from Smollett. Earlier today, I spoke with Dan Webb for an exclusive one-on-one interview. I began by asking him what he found most concerning during his probe into the handling of the Smollett case and sudden dismissal of charges in 2019.
When I did my investigation, as you can tell from the report, I've laid out significant evidence that that the office then, cannot explain how this came about. The two decision makers, Mr. Magatz, Ms. Lanier, both say the other one actually is the one that negotiated the resolution. So it's just a massive confusion, an operational failure as to how something like this could happen when every single leader in that office or had formerly been in the office, we interviewed 43 of them. Every one of them said, this is unheard of unless you have some substantial change of evidence, and that could happen. Every one of them said that didn't happen here. There was not a single fact that changed, zero. And yet they dismissed the case, and then they went out and lied to the public about it and tried to pretend as if the reason they dismissed it was because they had all this precedent in the office of 5,700 similar cases that had been dismissed just like this one was, when in fact I gave them a subpoena, the office. I said, I want to see any case you relied upon as a president to do this. They couldn't produce a single case, and yet they lied to the public and said they had 5,700 similar cases.
Right.
I just think that was an operational failure of a fairly big magnitude.
Right. They went out to the public, talked to us and other press outlets, basically saying this was consistent with so many other cases when your report finds that it was not. And also, Kim Foxx herself is interviewed by the OSP's office. She says she's surprised at the lenient dismissal, saying, quote, I think the kind of negotiation, let's get rid of that guy at the expense of really what his actions did to the city shortchanged, I think, accountability the city deserves. Whether the final decision then was made by Mr. Magatz or Ms. Lanier, does your report find any definitive reason for why they did what they did?
Absolutely not. That obviously is what I was trying to figure out, and I can't. I mean, I've laid all the facts out. That's what everyone testified to. No one wants to admit who actually cut the deal. It's always the other fellow did it, not me. And then when the state's attorney looks at it, she says it should have never happened this way. So that's why I find it to be pretty clear that it was a significant abuse of discretion, no justification for doing it, and I re-indicted the case and went to trial in front of a jury because I thought the public had a right to at least have a public trial and let a jury decide this. And this jury decided, I believe from their verdict, the evidence was overwhelming that he was guilty. And yet, so how this happened, and by the way, the reason I took this case was the Chicago Police Department. That's why I did it. I do believe deeply in this city. I'm biased.
And you mentioned you took this case pro bono. You're mentioning your reasons here. You also got in the report to Kim Foxx's recusal from the case. As everyone remembers, she said she would recuse herself because of some connections with phone calls that she took, and I want to get into that too. But it wasn't a legitimate recusal, and she misled people on how recused she was. Can you explain that for us?
I can. First of all, it turned out, this is why Judge Tooman had to appoint a special prosecutor. It turned out that when the state's attorney, Foxx, made a decision to recuse herself, there is a legal way to do that. It's very easy. It's under Illinois law. You recuse yourself, and you have to go to court and have a special prosecutor appointed. You don't get to pick your next door neighbor to handle the case. In this case, Ms. Foxx chose to have her first assistant handle the case. Then the chief of the criminal appeals section, Mr. Spellberg, came in and explained to everybody at the time, you can't do this. This is not illegal. You've done an illegal act by the way you've recused yourself. It's illegal under the law. You got to reverse this. And she refused to do so. Then refused to do it when she knew that the recusal was not consistent with the law. Then she went out and told the public that she had never ever learned about the fact that her recusal was improper. She denies that she ever talked to her own chief of the criminal section of appeals. And by the way, when I interviewed her, she admitted that when she told the public she didn't know her recusal was improper, that was not accurate. So that's what she said. That's the evidence.
So more misstatements there. There's a lot of intrigue, as you remember, about phone calls that she got or text messages from a Tina Chen, who was the former chief of staff for the former First Lady Michelle Obama and a friend of the Smollett family, and then Smollett's own sister. Did you find that those calls influenced what happened in the state's attorney's office, or what the content of those communications were?
Yes, I did. Because of the public reports about Tina Chen and others, and Jussie Smollett having communications with Fox, we did look into it. And by the way, to credit Ms. Fox, she is the state's attorney. She does have a right to interact with the public. She has a right to have people call her up and tell her that her office is doing something wrong, or she has the line of communication, in my judgment, as special prosecutor, between her and those outside individuals, up to the point when she found out that it was a hoax. She had a right up to that point to interact with Jussie Smollett and others, and I concluded there's nothing wrong with that, nor did I find that those outside individuals, I didn't find that they had any influence on decision making. So everything up to that point was fine. She then, Ms. Fox, made false statements to the media. She told the media that she stopped communicating with outsiders, such as Jussie Smollett, as soon as she found out that Mr. Smollett was not a victim, but had perpetrated a hoax. And she said that she stopped communicating with those third parties, which, by the way, would have been proper. That if she had stopped it, it would be proper. But we know she didn't stop it. I cited the evidence of several phone calls and text messages with Jussie Smollett. But then Ms. Fox went and told the public that she had stopped. She lied to the public about when she stopped communicating with Jussie Smollett, and that was wrong. That's why, I have raised the issue in my report that public officials, lawyers, we have a code of professional responsibility that requires us to be honest in our dealings with others in our profession. And the issue of whether an elected public official who's a lawyer should be allowed to lie to the public and lie about important issues that relate to the functioning of her office, I've at least raised the issue of whether that's an ethical problem. I don't decide that. That is an issue to be determined by what's called the Attorney Registration and Disciplinary Commission. I've referred my evidence to them, which I was obligated to do under the law. As another lawyer, I have to report information to them when I see it or hear about it. So I did report the information, but I don't make any decision about that. That's up to that entity to make a decision. But I did raise the question of whether we really want lawyers in public office lying to the public and whether that's a good thing or not.
Again, that was Special Prosecutor Dan Webb in an exclusive one-on-one with us earlier today. We should mention that commission he talks about has the ability to carry out punishment as severe as disbarment, although, as he says there, he's not recommending what they do, but he forwarded that case to them. We also spoke with Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx's counsel, Michael Bromwich. I asked him about the report's conclusion that Fox and her team lied and/or made misleading statements about dropping this case.
I think it's a deeply flawed report in all sorts of ways. So the mandate that Mr. Webb and the Office of the Special Prosecutor got from the court was to determine whether anybody from the state's attorney's office or the police department engaged in wrongdoing. And the short answer to that is no. It's disappointing that Mr. Webb's team suggested that every erroneous statement, every incorrect statement, every inaccurate statement is false and misleading. Language matters here, and by characterizing it as false and misleading, it suggests that the misstatements were intentional, that they were not the results of failed recollection or bad information that was passed to Ms. Fox. And so I think the use of the language there is very unfortunate and misleading and goes well beyond what the evidence supports.
Again, that was Michael Bromwich serving as counsel for Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx. He also told us he believes Webb's investigation had errors of its own and that Mr. Webb did not conduct many of the interviews in that probe himself.